Guys, approaching the bait tank is really important in how you do that because it's a matter of efficiency here. We want to get that bait out in the water as soon as possible because the simple fact is that the longer they spend outside of water, the faster they die off. So what I like to do when I approach the bait tank is I keep the rod in the crook of my arm like so. And it keeps the rod from sticking a deckhand in the eye, but it also keeps, as you can see, I have a good amount of length, a good length of line out here. And it allows me to not have to reach and kind of extend myself any further. Another popular method of hooking your bait, and probably one of my favorites, is the belly hook. One of the things I like about it is that the moment it hits the water, it takes off really good, okay? What we do now, we change our approach to the bait tank a little bit different, or how we actually get the bait. Because what we do now, we're still gonna come underneath that bait, but we wanna turn them upside down like this to expose those two belly fins, okay? What we do, again, guys, always keeping in mind that we are threading the circle hook into that fish as opposed to forcing it through. Okay, so now we get the barb right in there, get ourselves a little bit of meat. We're ready to go.
Hey, good morning, my dear friends, and welcome to beautiful, and I mean absolutely gorgeous, it's sunny and warm, Surfside, California. This Sunday morning, I truly hope you're having a lovely day, and we'll have a lovely Sunday the rest of the way. Man, we've got a lot to cover with you. We're going to take a look at the Royal Polaris on kelp patties and the Independence on an 8-day trip off to a really nice start. Some yellowfin tuna in Ensenada, that's a great signal. Couple dorado also to go along with that. And then we get you up to the Coronado Islands and the tuna bite here in SoCal. We'll check it out from down there in San Diego to the Outer Banks and up towards San Clemente and San Nicolas Island. Are they biting? Where did those big fish go off to? And of course, we're looking for local bass, barracuda, the surf, and so much more. You know what time it is. It's time for the morning briefing. Good morning, my friends. Oh my God, is that good? And is it good to be here with you all? I'm telling you, it is so beautiful. If you can't get out fishing today, go for a walk on the beach. It is absolutely gorgeous. We are so blessed to have that Eastern Pacific where perhaps you saw a pelican way offshore there hitting the water and feeding on some bait, and maybe there's some really good surf fishing going on. A lot to cover with you. In fact, my son Philip is supposed to be down in Huntington Beach surf fishing this morning. Hopefully by the time I get into post-production, I'll have some info from him. One of two things are happening right now with my son Philip. He's either bit wide open, catching tons of corvina, or he slept in this morning. So we'll figure it out as we go along. Hey, hit that like button, share these videos with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe to the Friedman Adventures YouTube channel. And of course, tick the little bell. You'll be notified when there's new content. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Really great to be with you all. Coronado Islands have been exceptionally hot. At the end of today's report, I admonish you all to stay on this show because Marcus Fain joins us. He had 10 yellowtail on the Mission Bell the other day fishing the Coronado Islands. His insights, his tackle tips will catch you more yellowtail. Whether you're going to the Coronado Islands or you're going to be fishing on some other boat, man, I'm telling you, you're going to want to stay tuned for that. So at the end of today's report, Marcus Fain with some great tackle tips on throwing the iron and so much more. You're not going to want to miss it. He is outstanding. Ensenada, let's go down there. Berenice Soto from Botes Juanitos. That's Paulina's mom. She had a yellowfin tuna and a dorado out there fishing with our dear friend Foca, who runs a panga out of Botes Juanitos, and that is good stuff, great stuff. Hopefully a sign of things to come as we're watching a little bit more yellowfin and dorado and kelp patty yellowtail provide great action for the Ensenada pongeros. It's just starting to happen on the dorado and the yellowfin tuna, but the kelp patty yellowtail fishing's been good, and also there's been plenty of nice big bonito and some decent bluefin tuna fishing. So we're starting to see that variety. And as we push deeper into summer and then ultimately we get into the fall, man, you're going to see variety in Ensenada that is going to knock your eye teeth out. It is really something. The fall months here in SoCal and Northern Baja are our best weather months. It's when you get your calm seas, you get that influx of warm water moving up the Baja Peninsula and pushing in here, and you have all that variety. Now when you hit a kelp, more than likely you're going to catch yellowtail. Later on, you're going to go on a kelp and you're not going to have any idea what's going to be on that kelp, and that is part of the mystery. That's what makes it so much fun to hit kelps. There's yellowfin, there's bluefin, there's yellowtail, there's dorado, there's all kinds of different species that can be on those kelps as we push further in. So keep that in mind. Now locally in Ensenada, there's still some great calico and sand bass fishing, occasional halibut and white sea bass, not too much. Great rock fishing, barracuda flurries, some bonita, and that local yellowtail still under the birds. That yellowtail is susceptible to boat pressure, and there's been a lot of it here this weekend. And again, I've already talked to some guys. A lot of boat pressure out there near Punta Banda as guys are running around trying to get on a school of that yellowtail. When you do get on it, you throw a surface iron, take a couple of winds, and pray to God that one of those nice yellows engulf your jig. Don't fish anything less than 40-pound. That's the way to go. Ensenada, Baja California, 70-mile drive south of the border, showing a lot of signs of life. And Berenice, nice catch on the yellowfin and the dorados. We head in the right direction. The 8-day scene, as there's a gentleman behind me. Looks like he's throwing a Lucky Craft type lure. Maybe he'll yank a halibut here for us as we go along. Independence started out catching a few wahoo on the troll, so they were happy with that. And then they started picking at the 40 to 80-pound yellowfin tuna. They are on that fish this morning and catching more yellowfin tuna. So that is great news from the Independents out of Point Loma Sportfishing. They're on a 7 or 8 day trip, one of those two, several hundred miles down the Baja coast, and they are experiencing some really good fishing. The XL has been down there also, and they're having great fishing. Wahoo, yellowtail, yellowfin tuna, nice grade on the fish, 40 to 80-pound yellowfin, some bigger than that. Really excellent fishing for the long-range boys right now. Now we'll move you up to the San Diego area, and we'll take a look at what's going on with the tuna bite. And let's just cover the whole SoCal region, because boats out of San Pedro, like 22nd Street Landing, our home base, you know, that fish, that big bluefin, is accessible, even better than it is for San Diego. A lot of that fish had been up there towards San Nicolas Island. Now, we've had some weather. It's been a little bit breezy, but that is going to come down right now. That big fish just has gone off the bite. It's been MIA. There's been a few catches, you know, and there's even been some daytime kite catches where guys that are kite fishing in the daytime catching that 100-plus pound bluefin. But, I mean, the really big, consistent scores that we were seeing 10 days ago are gone right now. Are they gone forever? For God's sakes, no. It's just a little blip on the radar. We'll get back into it. One never knows when it's going to be good fishing. That's why guys like Danny Cadota tell you, just go fishing. You never know when it's going to bite. And we're going to get a flash like that one of these days here very, very soon. Guys are still looking at it. They're seeing copious amounts of bluefin. It's around. It just is off the bite for some reason right now. And it will get back on the bite soon. So that big fish not biting that well. Now we get down to San Diego and we start to go in a southerly direction, and there's some really good kelp patty yellowtail fishing going on, a few dorado, some bluefin, smaller grade, you know, 15 to 30-pound fish for the most part. But you have to find the right kelp patty. If you don't, you're going to have a slow day. And there's plenty of those kind of days and plenty of those kind of trips going on right now. I don't tell you that with any glee or, you know, sense of joy. But, of course, we're here to tell you exactly what's going on. There's been a few great trips, and there's been a lot of trips where guys are struggling right now, even on the kelps, especially on the weekends, because you get just way too much boat pressure on the kelps at the Coronado Islands. Everywhere we're seeing a lot of boat pressure, and that will really make things a lot more difficult. Having said that, the Royal Polaris, man, they were whaling on the offshore kelp patty yellowtail. You get a look at the grade of fish. Most of it's really good, 10 to 20 pounds, let's call it. For the most part, it's really nice grade yellowtail, not the small little rats that you occasionally will see on the kelps. They'll bite the iron, they'll bite the bait. Most of the time, they're being taken on 30 to 40-pound fluorocarbon. Sometimes you can catch them on 60-pound. There's been some outstanding fishing on the kelps, but again, a little bit hit and miss. The Liberty on a 2-day trip, 8 bluefin, 19 yellowtail. The Apollo on a 2-day, 31 bluefin, a halibut, 33 dorado, 33 yellowtail, and 1 flathead, 1 dorado. Again, that is just starting to happen. The dorado, the warm water species that, as I mentioned to you, will push in here in greater numbers. So hit and miss on the kelps, but there has been some really good scores at times. And make sure you're bringing some lighter tackle and some heavier tackle. By that, I mean you want to have some 25-pound fluorocarbon and you want to have some 40, 60-pound fluoro in case you get on a kelp that really wants to bite. And those yellows are adept at running you back into the kelp and sawing you off. So keep that in mind and fish heavy if you can get away with it, and choose a really good hot bait. That will make all the difference in the world to you. All right, full day boats out taking a look for kelps. To San Diego, not bad, 33 yellowtail. Saw several schools of yellowtail and nice quality fish. There's no doubt about it. The boats that leave in the morning come back that very same afternoon have been having some great fishing, but a lot of boat pressure. Not only sport boat, but private boats all over it. The Grande, 9 bluefin, 11 yellowtail. So it backed off a little bit. My guess is that you're going to see those scores go back up, maybe today, but more than likely on Monday when we get a substantial amount of that boat pressure off. And that's why, you know, one thing when you're planning a trip or a charter, if there's any way at all for you to fish on weekdays when we do all of our charters, I know it's difficult to get off work sometimes, but man, that is a tip that I can give you that will really help you a lot. Weekdays, get away from the boat pressure. It'll make all the difference in the world to you. Tax problems, call our buddy Tim Marquez at A Best Income Tax. He's been doing income tax for 35 years. Tim will really help you a lot, and heating and or air conditioning needs, you're going to call John Lopez at Efficient Heating and Air Conditioning. John is a great guy and a Friedman Adventures family member. Let's talk islands now, and we've got to start at the Coronado Islands, where there has been some incredible yellowtail action. Again, stay tuned at the end of today's report. Marcus Fain with some incredible tackle tips and strategies to catch you more fish. Not only if you're just going to fish Coronado Islands, but if you're going to fish anywhere, throwing the iron especially. Great stuff. The Mission Bell has had it dialed in all season long, and they continue their assault on the yellowtail at the islands. 88 yellows here recently. I had a day the other day, and Marcus was on that trip with a $120 on the yellowtail. So there has been some really great fishing. There's a few small fish, and then there's a lot of those nicer big great fish. Sometimes, however, you'll get on straight smaller fish, and then other times you'll get the bigger ones. Marcus will tell you how you can target the bigger yellowtail. Nice hit on the Mission Bell, the Lucky Bee. Limits of yellowtail. Smaller yacht, they had 20 yellows for 4 guys, just so you know that. So once again, we're seeing some really good fishing. However, just to reiterate, folks, there was a lot of boat pressure there, and a lot of guys who had scratchier days at the Coronado Islands. That's going to come roaring back again on Monday. The Mission Bell, they just keep doing it. They keep cranking big numbers out of Point Loma sport fishing. They've had it dialed in all season long. San Clemente Island, the Freedom making squid last night, and they put an early white sea bass on the boat. Remember, at San Clemente Island, we get that early morning bite where you're catching those big yellowtail on the dropper loop. Tremendous boat pressure there this morning, fishing 60-pound, 50-pound with an 8-ounce torpedo and a big old hook like a 5.0 or 7.0 size hook, and live squid will make it happen for you. Sometimes you get flashed on the yellow, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you'll hang several of those nice big great fish like 20-plus pounders. Sometimes you'll catch some of the smaller ones. It's kind of mixed up there. And as previously mentioned, there's been some pretty decent white sea bass fishing at times. The Freedom had that one fish early this morning. Hopefully they kept rocking and rolling in their bite out of 22nd Street Landing. So after you fish that early morning bite and you're fishing when the anchor drops, you may not get bit, but you don't want to be in the bunk when those big yellows show up and start biting the dropper. During the daytime, you're going to take sardine and live squid. There's been some really great calico bass fishing at times, and also some smaller yellowtail during the daytime as you take a look all over San Clemente Island. So that place, pretty good. Over at Catalina Island, we continue to see pretty good fishing, not great fishing, but some calico bass biting there right now. There's been quite a bit of yellowtail seen, but it just has been reluctant to bite. We haven't seen any really great yellowtail scores come out of there, but kind of a variety, you know, like some calico bass, barracuda, some bonita, occasional yellowtail, scores like that. Now, Monday, the El Patron has plenty of room, and they are a definite go, my friends, out of Long Beach sport fishing. El Patron, limited load trips. They've been doing really well on the bass because they have less people on the boat, so you get a bigger piece of the pie. El Patron, get on and have a great time tomorrow by going to www.longbeachsportfishing.org. So some good stuff going on there. Thunderbird, he's been fishing Clemente. Fury's been fishing Clemente. They've had some great days. A couple days ago, the Thunderbird was pushing 50 yellows over there after a couple of slow days, a little bit mixed in terms of the results, but we'll keep our eyes on the Channel Island area. We continue to keep our eye on that because we've seen some huge white sea bass scores, especially on the Endeavor. But it goes like that where, man, you get this beautiful burst of sea bass, and then you go back to rockfish. And there's nothing wrong with rockfish, don't get me wrong, but it's July and a lot of people are focused on trying to catch more surface fish. The Californian out of Ventura Sport Fishing had a nice pick at the bass yesterday. The Aloha Spirit had great bass fishing yesterday. And there's some barracuda mixed in, a little bit of sand bass along the coast. The Island Spirit, our great friend Daniel Hadaway, looked at conditions. They were off yesterday. There's been some wind and some adverse currents, so he filled everybody's sack with some great rockfish. It's the beauty of the Channel Islands. If you miss on the exotics like the yellows or the sea bass or the halibut, you get to fall back on some of the finest rock fishing you will ever see and some of the finest eating fish. Really good stuff there. All right, so that's the island situation. Now, we want to tell you that you can get 10% off at promarahi.com. When you order online, put in FA at checkout, and you'll be in good shape. 1/2 and 3/4 day, real scratchy here the last couple of days. Down in San Diego, a little bit of bass, but nowhere near the great calico fishing we were seeing. There's occasional exotics up to around Oceanside. Pretty good bass fishing, a lot of short fish. Dana Wharf, kind of just scratching at the fish. Nice halibut out of there. Up here in the San Pedro, Long Beach areas, it's a little bit hit and miss. There's been a lot of boat pressure this week, and the Victory had 50 sand bass and pretty good sculpin fishing. On board the Redondo Special, Nick Ramirez said, good bass fishing here out of Redondo. Nick is a Friedman Adventures family member, a great guy, and he's become an extraordinarily good fisherman. Nick, way to go. Marina Del Rey, a lot of sculpin and rockfish with some good twilight bass fishing going on out of there. The Native Sun, they had 117 sand bass out of 22nd Street Landing in San Pedro. We'll get back to the weekdays, and we'll start to see some much better sand bass fishing. I guarantee you that. Nothing wrong with those kind of scores. And up there in the Channel Islands, we kind of covered that with you all. We're watching that very, very closely, and we'll continue to do just that. Speaking of the Island Spirit and the guys out of Ventura Sport Fishing, man, they have got plenty of room for you on their Kids Fish Free trip. Oh, wait a minute, that was today. On their Monday trip, they've got plenty of room for you. So you might want to think about jumping on with Daniel Hadaway and the great crew on the Island Spirit. They do a great job. 805-676-3474 and get on the Island Spirit. You'll have a really great time. Southern California surf, big fish bait and tackle up there in the corner of Seal Beach Boulevard and Pacific Coast Highway. You get all your bait and tackle, and you can get in to a great tournament. Every single month they're giving away a custom, beautiful surf fishing rod that you are gonna love. All you gotta do is catch the biggest fish. This month, it's the biggest spot fin croaker. Next month, it'll be something else. You go into Big Fish, buy your ruler, and then they'll give you all the details on how you can win. And it's free after that. All you gotta do is buy the ruler. All right, what's my son Philip doing? Hopefully, I have some update from him. Unless that bum slept in today. Good Corvina fishing. There's been a few halibut in the surf. Also, a little bit of bar perch. They like the cooler water, so as waters warm up, you start to see less of that good yellowfin croaker fishing from the border all the way up to Ventura. For the most part, up there in the Santa Monica Bay, there's been great Corvina fishing for Josh DeZille and several other guys like Doug Tilk, and also some yellowfin croaker up in that neck of the woods. So that has been heading in the right direction. My friends, don't you dare go anywhere. Marcus Fain is next. Great stuff. You'll learn a lot about throwing the iron and catching those Coronado Island yellowtail. But if you're not going to the islands, you'll be able to apply that knowledge to all your other fishing venues. Marcus Fain coming up next. Thanks, everybody. Great to be with you. It is so gorgeous, man. I'm thinking about just, laying here in the sunshine for a half hour, but I've got to go do some post production and get the morning briefing on the air. As always, it's great spending time with you. Have a great day, and I hope to see you really, really soon. Marcus Fain coming up next. Morning, and I'm going to go visit with a really dear friend of mine. It's Marcus Fain. Marcus, good morning to you. How are you?
Bill, how are you doing?
Doing great. Good to see your smiling face this morning. Where are you and what are you
Yep.
doing? That is a good way for you to introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much here in Dana Point at Dana Point Launch Ramp. I'm doing my field surveys where I interview fishermen that are coming in, and I survey their catch. So whatever species they bring in, I just collect bio data, pretty much weights and measurements, and I just record that, and that's just to help for management purposes.
Great stuff. Really great work that you're doing.
Yep,
All right, let's cut to the chase because
appreciate it.
everybody's starting to tune in here. A bunch of people are jumping on. You were on the Mission Bell the other day. I think you guys had over
Yep.
100 yellowtail. First of all, describe the action. How good is that bite?
So it seems like it's definitely more of a late morning, afternoon bite. Early in the morning, not much is going on. I think, or maybe on that particular day, because there was a lot of boat traffic, the fish were kind of skittish. Every time we would pull up on fish, they would, sink out and disappear, and we would have to relocate them again. But once we really got on them and they stuck to the boat, I mean, it was pretty wide open. It started off with smaller fish that I would just call them rats, like 3 to 5 pounders. They were biting every bait that hit the water. Then later we moved in on a different part of the islands or another part of the, I guess maybe the South Island. And that's where we started finding those bigger fish. And those fish were a little bit more finicky. You had to drop down in line size, like 25-pound tests. I was using opsin fluorocarbon. So that was getting me bit on the fly line. Size one hook. I noticed guys using like two O's, one O's. They weren't really getting bit. It was a particular size one hook that got people bit pretty good with the fly line baits. Um, then once the fish really started coming up to the surface, crashing on the chum, things like that. That's when a surface iron came into play. So mint or all white or blue and white, those colors, and as long as the jig swims pretty good, you got bit. So that's what I was noticing with the bite. Also, if you were casting a jig, it was all about, jig placement. So uh if you saw a boil, you didn't want to cast right where you saw the boil. You kind of had to look and see which direction the fish were moving after they boiled, and you wanted to cast probably about 10, 15 feet ahead of them. So by the time you brought that jig back, they would intercept your jig on the way that they were traveling. So guys who understood that, they were getting bit pretty good on the jig. But all in all, even people, it was their first time fishing. I think as long as they fly lined a good swimming bait with 25-pound test, they were bit.
Man, I think I speak for everybody. You're going to be a regular on this thing because these are invaluable tackle tips. This is really good stuff. And it never fails, does it, Marcus? You get on the big fish.
No, it doesn't. It's just repetition. I think just because I've been on boats. My dad got me on boats when I was about 7 years old, and watching all the old guys growing up in the Santa Monica Bay, fishing the Sea Spray, the Rio Redondo, the Del Mar, things like that. Just seeing what like old fishermen always did, just constantly changing their baits, adapting uh to the pretty much the uh conditions that are out there. The conditions change every single day, so you just have to adapt. One thing that's working one day may not work the next day, so you just have to pay attention to what's going on and make that switch. A lot of times when you make that switch or you watch who's catching fish and you replicate what they're doing, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna hook up. So it's just paying attention to what's going on out on the water.
It's crazy. Those big fish start to bite, and then you got to go to the light tackle. It creates a dilemma, but to catch them,
Yeah.
you got to get bit, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you would think it's from how they were biting at first, you would think, like it didn't matter what pound test you were using, but it really did. I tried bumping up to 30, 40 pound, and I just I couldn't get bit, so I had to, tr- drop down to 25, and I just after that I really started getting bit pretty quick. It's crazy how much that line size and hook size makes a difference. It just helps the bait swim good. Mind you, the bait we had was phenomenal. It's probably the best bait I'd seen all year. It was a good size sardine, very healthy bait. It's just I guess they were line shy, and they still, they wanted something a little bit more finesse presentation, even though the bait was phenomenal.
You pointed out the other day that one way to get bit on the heavy line, and it seemed like catch bigger fish, was by throwing the iron. Is that right?
Yes, so like a lot of times those fish were staying away from the boat because we were having sea lion issues. There were sea lions swimming around the boat, and that's all. Then those fish would stay far out from the boat, and if you could place a jig far away from the boat, uh, and it was a good swimming jig, you got bit. And like I said, it was all about jig placement. You didn't want to blind cast anywhere and hope to get bit. You kind of had to see where the fish were. Pay attention to the birds too. Birds are huge indicators to let you know where fish are. If you see birds, swooping down, turning their heads, and that's where you want to cast. You want to cast ahead of that. Uh, and start, cranking in. It seemed like the medium, the fast retrieve was like the best bet. uh, so it said, looks like Andy. Yeah, I was butt hooking, honestly. Once the boat anchored and we got settled in, butt hook was the way to go. It makes your bait get out away from the boat and swim down. And in that way, the fish are more inclined to bite it because it gets away from the boat and it swims down where the fish are. So I always butt hook unless it's just totally wide open and they're next to the boat. Then I nose hook, or when the boat is uh, we're drifting and we're coming up on a slide, and the boat's still pretty much moving, and the captain says drop a bait behind the boat. That's when you want to nose hook because if you don't get bit, on the slide when you go to wind in, you still want that nose hook so that bait is coming forward towards you, and then you get bit on the line a lot of times. So butt hook I think is best when the boat is anchored or when you're drifting and the boat's pretty much in position, not really moving much. Then you butt hook. But when the boat's still moving and the captain says toss the bait back, that's when you want to nose hook. Or if the bite's just wide open, I don't think it matters whether you butt hook or nose hook.
All right, good stuff. You are listening to Marcus Fain. He's going to spend a couple more moments with us, I hope. Q Ball is with us. He's saying hello.
Yep.
He's loving it. Josh Ritz is with us. AJ from Mexico joining
What's
us.
up?
And
What's
Andy
up,
just
Josh?
asked a
That's my
great
buddy.
question. Q Ball, you
Yeah.
got a lot of fans out there watching, and this is
I see. Yeah.
invaluable information. Marcus, a question for you. You said you don't want to blind cast. So do you literally stand there at the rail and wait for a signal?
Yep, pretty much, off the side of the boats, like the starboard or port, kinda stay away from the stern because that's where everyone's fly lining baits if you're gonna throw a jig, or go up on the bow, and yes, you're kinda just sitting there waiting. Because unless there's just fish busting all around the boat, you you don't wanna waste energy casting and casting and casting and not, hoping to get bit. When I throw a surface iron, I want to capitalize, on every cast and make sure every cast counts. So I'm watching for birds. I'm watching for breaking fish. I'm even looking for bait. If I see bait like the chum that's been thrown out there, if that bait starts to swim upswell and I'm watching it, scurry on the surface, obviously it's getting chased by a fish. So that's a good place that you want to where you want to put your fish, your jig. So you just have to pay attention to things like that. I see a lot of guys just casting jigs, and they're not getting bit. And it's most of the time it's just because they're not putting the jig where the fish are. So you just have to pretty much watch and see what the fish are doing before you start throwing the jig.
Cue Ball's loving it. Tony Gonzalez, good morning to you. Thank you for being here with us. Marcus, I know you have some rods, some sponsors perhaps that you would, I want to tell you, go ahead, mention how your rods worked, anything else you want to give a plug to. And
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I just I use Fishing Syndicate for the most part. I think they're great rods. Uh, they have a new line of rods, the S glass and E glass. Those are great jig and fly line bait rods. They are not very, well, the junior, there's the 90J Junior that's very parabolic, great for live bait fishing. Uh, so yeah, I mean, that's rods I've been using for the most part, and they get the job. Uh, Highly recommend those rods. It doesn't really matter whatever rod you want to use and you're comfortable with, go for it. Those are just the rods that I use. I think with live bait fishing, as long as you have a rod that has a sensitive tip, it loads up good once you get bit. That's all that really matters. So
All right, good stuff. Can you spend a couple more minutes with us?
I didn't mean to cut it short, but I actually have a boat coming in right now.
Yeah, no
So I got to
problem.
get to it. Yep. But yeah, anytime. It was a pleasure talking with you, Phil. Great seeing you. I'm glad you're doing well. And I hope whoever's listening, that information helps you out on your next trip.
Kick butt information. One final question for you.
Yep.
Any anchor fish, or were you just chasing breezers around?
No. There was definitely some anchor fish. There were times where we would find fish and they would react to the chum immediately and stick to the boat. That's when the captain would put the anchor down. So he didn't really want to put the anchor down unless the fish were just really, sticking with the boat. Then he would put the anchor down. But a lot of times we were just chasing. The captain was just driving around until he got a sonar mark or until like we found birds where fish were at. So for the most part, it was half and half drifting and half anchor fishing, just depending on if the fish stuck with the boat or not.
All right, I'm going to let you go now.
Yep.
I'll let you exit. I'm going to stay here for a little bit just to talk
Okay.
about what a great job you did. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take
Take
care,
care.
Marcus. All right, Marcus Fain, everybody. What a great presentation that was. I'm loving it. I just wanted to spend a little bit more time with you all. Tommy Tar fished half day trip out of Dana Point yesterday. We had a lot of pompano in the bait tank. Is this telling about what's to come? I saw a lot of pompano when I was a kid in the bait, and those were colder water years. So maybe that La Nina has something to do with that, Tommy. Hey, it's Abe, cool granddaddy. Any forecast for the first week of August? He's going to, let's see, the first week going to be on the Dana Pride for a charter. Let me tell you something, Abe. I have a forecast. Since you're going to be there, it's going to be wide open something. That is for sure. It's going to be really, really good. Thank you, Q Ball. Yeah, I'm telling you, Marcus really has it down. So remember, you guys, you're looking for a signal when you're throwing the iron. You are waiting for a bird to dip down. You're waiting for a boil. And Marcus says you don't just throw at the boil, you throw and anticipate the direction the fish are moving. You'll see that by the word the birds are flying in many cases, where the birds are moving in the direction that the school is moving. So if you get out in front of them with your cast, you can really do well. So really good stuff. And hey, got a trip on the pursuit tomorrow. What can I do to give myself the best opportunity to catch a yellowtail? Well, perhaps some of those things that we just talked about, keeping your eyes on the situation. And what I would recommend is they've got such a great crew there, Andy, on the pursuit. Talk to the boys and ask them, hey, guys, the yellows that you've been catching, has it been on light line? Can I get away with 25-pound? Is that going to work for me? And they're going to tell you, man, you better drop down to 20. You may lose the fish, but at least you'll hook them. Or they might tell you they're biting the 40-pound, which they're not. But things change from day to day. We have no idea what's going on board the pursuit right now. So I would definitely keep that in mind. Okay. Just talk to your crew. And Andy, best of luck to you, my friend. I hope you have a really, really great and special day on the water. Hey, you guys, I'll tell you what a great special update that was. Marcus Fain is Marcus, you're gone. So you're not hearing this right now. You're gonna hear it later though. You're gonna be on here way more often. So knowledgeable, such a great orator, really, really fantastic. Loved all the information he got over to all of us. It was fantastic. All right, folks, I got a lot of work to do around here. I got to keep you in touch with all the hot bites in Baja and Southern California and so much more. Hey, make Marcus happy and pound on that like button. We would deeply appreciate it if you could hit that like button. I'm watching it go up as we speak. No, it's not moving. What's going on? Hit the like button. Share this with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe to the Friedman Adventures YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, on Facebook, and of course, Apple Podcast and Spotify. As always, it's a great pleasure for me to spend time with you. Deeply appreciate you taking time out of your busy morning to spend some time with us. And we'll continue to watch some really great fishing. Morning briefing early tomorrow morning. Wow, that explosion of white sea bass in the Channel Islands. Tremendous, great kelp patty fishing going on. You can check that out on the morning briefing from this morning. Cue ball, you're the man. Thanks for hitting that like button. And thank you all for joining us. Have a great weekend, a wonderful morning, and I hope to see you all really, really soon. Take care, my friend.